Hi, Nick Holland again. I'm with Richard Bradley and Matt Howson. We are at Sports Car Global, if nothing else, innovative. So we thought it'd be fantastic to get a preview of different categories from drivers in other categories, just to see if they recognise the cars that they're passing or the cars that are coming past them. So guys, starting off with GTE AM. Quite a selection of cars, obviously no Fords. All the 2015 runners though are represented. Where's your money? Who looks good out there?
Well, first I have to say go KCMG. Not being politically biased, but yep, KCMG got to support the boys.
The lovely 78.
But I'd say, if anything, when you're behind them, the car which looks the most impressive for me is the Ferrari. And what it looks like is that because the roof it looks like the whole car is generally a lot lower. It looks like the centre of gravity is a lot less. There's a lot less body roll in it, particularly in the slow corners. And for me, it looks the easiest car to drive when you're behind it. Obviously, it's not always at the front, so it depends on various other factors. But the Ferrari 458 always look very impressive when you're behind them.
Yeah, I mean, certainly because one of the things when you're in an LMP2, most of the time you are just going past a GT on acceleration, in high-speed corners. But one place where the GTs tend to get away from us is in the low-speed corners, for example, the Ford chicanes. If you catch one in the last part of the Ford chicane, they tend to get through and then disappear off quicker than we can because of the ride height we run and various other reasons. And in this area, the Porsches actually, for me, look very strong. Like Richard said, they do look like they have more body roll. They kind of look almost more clumsy through the corners.
Yeah.
But it makes them very strong over the curbs. Where the Ferraris look really on a knife edge.
Yeah.
So in GTM included. So yes, I mean with that category, it's always about the average of the driver lineup, how strong that sort of is. And certainly KCMG are fairly strong in that department. But yeah, I'd have to agree with Richard. I think the Ferrari have a really good package.
Yeah.
Across all the cars they're running, really.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, that softness of the Porsche through corners and so on, we certainly saw that last year down at the Ford chicane. And I think previously we've seen, whether it was photoshopped or something, but the Jorg Bergmeister's low flight through that gravel trap. That softness of a car can also help in dubious or changing conditions, can't it?
Yeah. Porsches as well. They're very good in the wet. The engine's over the rear axle, which helps a lot with traction.
Yeah.
You've obviously, normally everyone in the GT categories were running Michelin tyres. Of course, in the Pro class, you've got a little bit of variation there now. So that is going to make something of a difference. Certainly for Aston Martin, who are running the Dunlop. There will be certain conditions that might play to their advantage, but there are certain conditions where they're just, I don't think they're up to speed yet.
Yeah.
So again, their race will really be heavily determined by the weather. If it's fully dry, I think the Dunlop looks pretty respectable. In wet conditions, I don't think the Dunlop wet's quite proven yet in GT, whereas the Michelin's been very strong for many years.
Yeah.
So certainly the Porsche on a Michelin is going to be very strong should the conditions become changeable, which is what we're expecting.
So that's Porsche and Ferrari. It's also touched on Aston Martin. We have to remember the 98 Aston Martin, they need a little bit of payback this year. This is the Paul Dalla Lana, Pedro Lamy, Matheus Lauda car that came to within half an hour of winning its category last year. And certainly I know that hurts with Paul Dalla Lana, interestingly, going off at the Ford chicane. So those guys, they won at Spa again. Just a few weeks back, so I expect they'll be strong. I think the other car of note is probably the 50 Labra competition car. That is actually the specific GTE Pro winning Corvette from last year, the number 64. It's number 50 this year, but I just highlight it because notably it is garaged right next to Corvette Racing this year. Sandwiched, I think, between them and Straka and the Aston Martins. Just wonder will there be a bit of garage cross-fertilisation from the Corvette Racing and Labra teams?
Oh, absolutely, 100%. I mean, Corvette as a brand will want to win in every category they're competing in, and I'm sure that they will have more resources and knowledge and data than Labra will, being a factory outfit. So of course the better they do in each category they compete in, the more value they get for their marketing and the more cars they sell. So I'm certain they'll be helping Lava in every single way they can, providing it doesn't distract them from their own GTE Pro project.
Yeah, and of course Corvette are the reigning. They won Daytona 24 back in February. So yeah, no slouches there, and nothing hurts Chevrolet more than seeing Ford win. Yeah. So they will be particularly keen. Let's move and look at GTE Pro now. I guess everyone's looking to the Fords here on their 50th anniversary run. What do they look like out on track? Are they sandbagging as much as everyone suggests?
Yeah, I mean, you get that impression that they're quite fast in a straight line, so the way that they get to their top speed seems quite strong. Yeah. Definitely already, and I think that it's kind of the downside of GTE Pro is we never know because of the BOP issue. There's always a lot of games going on, between all the manufacturers. So, I, from what I heard from one source, the Porsches were flat out. They don't have time for these games. Now, of course, maybe that is a big disadvantage because there have been some tweaks and some changes since the test day, and it's a shame really because you really don't know where anyone is until you come to certainly to qualifying and maybe even to the race. But certainly from the outside, the Fords do they're a proper dark horse. They're not an outside drunk guy in the pub. Oh, they might win. They're enormously well prepared. Our chief mechanic from last year has actually been with Ford now for since he left Le Mans. So that gives you some idea of the amount of time that's gone into preparing these cars. And so of course the driver lineup is pretty phenomenal as well across the board, all the cars. So that says something about Ford's intentions really.
Yeah. At Sports Car Global, we've got a favourite of the Fords. We are, if nothing but nationalists, and it's the 67 car because we're nicknaming that the Brit Tag car, a Brit Pack car. Okay, out there as well, we've obviously got Porsche coming stronger with their 2016 interpretation of RSR. I don't know how much they can actually change on that car. Engine position, diffusers can't be added, etc. But we know it'll most likely it'll be there at the end. Anything you guys like to add on the 2016 Porsches?
I think that, as you say, there's only so much you can do, and with so many new cars coming along this year, and the way that Porsche are effectively scaling back in WEC, it very much shows where their intentions are towards GT Pro next year. But I think they still definitely got a chance. They've got a very good lineup. They've got people who are very experienced in this race and in those cars, and I think you could underestimate that, because what normally happens for me whenever I watch a GT Pro battle is you come up to them at the beginning of the race and they're a nightmare because there's one from each manufacturer battling for the lead, and to overtake them is an absolute nightmare because they're all over the place for this battle. Then all of a sudden one will drop out with a technical issue, then all of a sudden another will drop out with a technical issue, and then there'll be one left, and that one will win the race.
Yeah.
And I think you've seen that trend quite a bit in the last few years. And so, to be honest, I think that they will be a dark horse due to the preparation they've got. So.
Yeah, absolutely. I guess the other dark horse out there is the prancing horse. AF Corsa, with the beautiful looking 488, has strangely suffered its reliability issues. But if it's going to come good anywhere, it's going to be in a battle with Ford, surely. Yeah,
well, I mean, both Ford and Ferrari, there's big question marks over their reliability. I think the Porsche is a fairly proven machine now, as is the Corvette, to some extent, Aston Martin as well. The Ford is just an unknown. I'm sure they've done some very long-range tests, and the engine has been in the back of a DP car, so there's a lot of known elements there, but until you get here and you actually get the thing out running for 24 hours, you just don't know. Porsche, they've been here, done that, and it's a little bit like when Porsche came into LMP1 against Audi and Toyota. On the face of it looked like, this is Porsche going to be right there, but Audi still outmanoeuvred them, the first year because of that experience and a number of other things that kept Porsche back. So I think you've got a little bit of that with Ford and Ferrari. I mean, the car it sounds phenomenal. When you're in LMP2, you can hear when a Ferrari is in front of you from probably a kilometre back. You know, you can hear it wailing. The exhausts are coming straight out the back and at you, so you kind of always we like coming up behind them, don't we?
It wakes you up at the middle of the night, you know, when you're starting to get a little bit sleepy, you get behind a Ferrari, all of a sudden get that little twing back in until you come round again.
Yeah, you can hear them getting on the throttle, you know, everything like that. So, you know, the Ferraris are great because they're a good old-fashioned race car, screaming away, just you know, making sure everyone knows that they're out on the race circuit.
Yeah.
But they do look particularly well. You know, they look. So in my experience of driving them, they're always very well. It's almost single-seater-esque in the way that they drive, and I think that works very well around here. And of course, with Sam Bird, I mean, this lineup that's dominating in WEC is very, very, very strong.
Yeah.
You know, and you need to go to the Tandy Porsche car really for me to get a similar level of drivers across the board. So I think it's going to be, for me, I see the Porsche Ferrari being the main battle, and of course there'll be a Corvette in there as well. Aston Martin, I'm not so sure. Depends on where they land after qualifying.
I think the interesting thing will be though is they'll all be in the battle, and then there'll just be one left, and it will end up winning the race by 3 or 4 laps, as they always do, because they just go so hard for this race, and it's fantastic to watch.
Yeah.
You know, it just goes on for hours, and I love it. It's pure, proper racing. That's what it should be.
Yeah, I mean, across the categories this year, this does sound like a year where we're going to push, and everyone's going to do their best. Well, thank you guys. We've spoken about Aston Martin. Sorry, we should cover just Corvette, Chevrolet. Coming, I suppose, late into WEC, does that give them a BOP advantage, or will that all get levelled out?
I don't know much about the BOP thing, but I think that, you know, there's enough sources and intelligence around the world to go and see what Corvette are doing in IMSA.
Yeah.
And so even though they won't have been sandbagging at Daytona and Sebring, so I think that WEC would be able to get a bit of information from that, and obviously IMSA and WEC now, especially with all the discussions going on about the DPI formula, are quite close. So I expect it would be quite easy to get information. So I wouldn't. You know, they'll be in it. They'll definitely be in it, but I wouldn't expect them to have a BOP break.
Okay, and the one piece of information I had on Chevrolet Corvette was from Oliver Gavin, Yardley's finest. He is confident that running on Michelin's in the WEC or Le Mans will actually bring them higher performance than they actually get in the IMSA. So that could be one thing. As the race goes on, they'll learn from and they'll improve. Okay, we have to wrap it up right now. Thank you guys. Can you just pick for me a favourite out of the pros? Obviously it's the KCMG in the AMS. Who's going to be your favourite? Are we going with Nick?
I mean, I'd like to say Nick really. Where's he on this?
That's the 91 Porsche.
I mean, you know, this is a phenomenal lineup. Estra, Pile, Tandy. I think they're all super hungry, just the right mix of experience and, you know, youth and hunger and that sort of thing. So that would be my sort of tip, followed very closely by the AF course with Rigon, Bird and Bertolini. I think they'll be, you know, very, very, very strong as well.
I think my heart's going to say the 91 Porsche, because I'd love to see Nick do the double. Obviously we've got a good relationship after what we did last year with KCMG. But to be honest, my head is telling me to go for the 69 Ford, not just because 69 is my lucky number, but I think a lineup of Briscoe, Westbrook and Dixon with all their experience is going to be quite impressive.
Great. Okay. Well, let's see how it turns out. We look forward to it. Stay safe and have a great race.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Yeah, we better rush back.
Team meeting.